Okay, so it's good to be back in Google events. I mean, this since three years plus, I was since then. Okay, so I'd like to do a quick poll about how many developers are here. Like, here's your hand, who are developers? Okay, quite a lot. Who are product managers or anything do with like apps? No. Okay, there's a few. Anyone who are non-tech, who are actually just come here, I know about it. Okay, so majority are actually tech. Okay, so today's on my agenda is actually as focus on three things. One is actually on the overview. So there's a bit of Easter egg. You can see it, some amazing waving. So you should know who is this if you actually use this technology before. Second thing, I'll talk about the trends. So these trends about like, because I've been using Flutter for about near to 5 years. So Flutter about started in like 2017 when it's version 0 point something. The last thing I'll talk about is the latest kind of which announced during the Google I/O. There's some gadgets that's interesting, which can build a platform that's cross not just Android but also iOS and other platform that's been used by the developers or by the user itself. So my name is Jason. So I'm in a startup ecosystem for many years. So I'm in these three roles right now. So the first one is Bonfire. It's actually a kind of we're trying to build a software as a service for enterprise or for on the kind of well-being software for their employees to receive um, care at using this app. So that is actually one. The second one is I provide a CTO as a service to startups. So I provide some early stage startup who have only one developer or one hustler. Usually it's only two of them or three of them. Then usually they like what kind of technology to use to build their first version, build prototype. The third one is actually my day job. We said Blood is actually a kind of feminine tech that's based in Southeast Asia. You just type Google, type right. It's actually kind of they're providing physical product and also digital product for females. So that's actually so all these three companies all use Flutter in one sense in another. So I'll talk about that in seconds. All right. So in the past 10 over years, since I was like graduate from Poly until now, or went to UNUS. So these are technology that is I used before, either school projects or using it for professional using or a production app. So there's some few trends you can see. So for example, the first Android or the first kind of app, the term app is actually started when I was near the after my national service. So before national service, the first Android or the first kind of iPhone is actually around that time launch, the very first one. So after that, then you will see that also pick up Android, also pick up other language. So today's I actually focus more on the Flutter. So I will share more why I use Flutter was the case. So I switched from React Native to Flutter when I actually saw this Flutter at the day where they actually launched, like before it become version 1.0. We'll share it a bit later. All right. So I like to ask this question, or you have been asked this question before in your team or in your or someone talk to you and you know that you are developers. They will say, oh, is it possible to build feature XYZ for platform A, B, C, D, E? So it can be iOS, Android, it can be web, it can for Raspberry Pi, it can for like you want to build a kiosk on Windows, so many platforms. So the thing is that with so many platform means that you have a different team like iOS team, Android team. You also have iOS team, web team, right? So this is a typical kind of platform where you ask this question. So it can be from a colleague, or if you actually work for your freelance developer, your client will ask this. Like, is it possible? So there's a typical kind of question they will ask. So that team will ask or say, oh, yes, we can, but because there's a lot of issue. iOS can work on this, Android cannot work on this, then vice versa. Web can work, doesn't work. So that is actually an issue that developers face every day. So as we know that building apps across cross-platform, just one platform is already quite a lot of things you need to do. But imagine you have to build a single app single user interface, single user experience across different platforms is kind of be hard and it's tedious. So you will need multiple teams to do that. All right. So that's where Dash come in. So Dash is actually a mascot for Flutter. So Flutter is actually the logo that I'm actually wearing. So Dash is actually a mascot. So hello to Dash. All right. So what is Flutter? So Flutter is actually a UI framework that create a beautiful UI across cross platform. And the key thing is single code base. So what is single code base? That means you're using a one code base, your effort is one time, and you can deploy to multiple platforms. So that sounds like a dream, right? So before Flutter is coming, you're like, oh, it's a dream. How do I deploy same code to iOS, Android, and wow, and it's the performance. The problem is performance. So there's past platform, the past framework that actually promise that, but it's hard. You will see that your user will complain that, oh, it works on this and there's a lot of performance issue, and the user will complain and so on and so forth. So that is actually why Flutter actually exists, because there's a problem. Because to build cross-platform is hard. All right. So I'll talk about three different versions that actually Flutter have. So in these three platforms, Flutter 1.0 focusing on the Express UI. So they have actually have so the promise of Flutter 1.0 is that they have like a lot of features like they support iOS, Android. So when that time that was around 2019, around 2019 kind of thing, they actually released about 1.0. So that's where you can build cross-platform on iOS, Android using same code base. All right. Then for Flutter 2.0, they actually focus more on making Flutter Web and Windows. So that means at 2.0, you can actually deploy using a same code base, and you can deploy to iOS, Android, Web, and Windows. So that time when I was when the time they promised that, oh, you can actually deploy to iOS, Android, yes, it works. But how about Web and Windows? So when they actually released 2.0, I tried it. Then I didn't touch any much changes to what my code that is work for iOS, Android. I tried it. Then I'm like, oh, wow, it actually works. It works as I didn't change anything. You just type the command and it works. So that is actually a beauty of Flutter. And in Flutter 3.0, which is this year, they make even more kind of where they support Mac OS and Linux. So that means if you want to build like embedded system or you want to build apps for your Nintendo Switch, it's possible because Nintendo Switch based on Linux and other Raspberry Pi is also based on Linux. So you can see that the moment they support Linux, a lot of platform works. Even Chrome OS also based on Linux. So that is actually what these three versions that is proposed. So today I will actually share a bit more on two things that is on 3.0, which I'll share in the next slides. Okay, so for Flutter, I've been using it in 2018. So that is actually, you can see the three comparison between the React Native and Flutter. This on the GitHub. That's the star history. That means how many developers actually like the project on GitHub. So you can see that when I was using it in about 2018, so that's where it's before Flutter becomes 1.0. So when I saw that, it's like, oh, I was using React Native React. Then I see, I'm very skeptical about Flutter. Like, oh, I mean, it's just another platform. I mean, yeah. Then when they say they can actually support iOS, Android, Web, okay, React Native also can, React also can. But React Native, the thing is that although they are, it can actually reuse code base, but then they have two different projects. So that means you have Web, React, they also have Web, you also have iOS and Android React Native. So technically there's some overuse, there's some reuse, but it's not really in the same code base. So in my past projects, I actually used two different code base. One for the React for the web, Reactive for the iOS, Android. So in this case, for Flutter, so when Flutter actually came in, I tried and tried. Like, oh, okay, they promise iOS, Android, web. Then they say future they'll support. So as we reach 1.0, that's around near about 2019. Yeah. So you can see the developers start to adopt Flutter. So that is actually a very interesting trend to see it actually surpassed React Native in this sense. All right. So let's go for another trend. So this is actually an official kind of a statistic from GitHub, Octopus. So you can see that the trend for Flutter actually become like you can see in 2018 to 2019, the kind of adoption become 500%. So you can see you can see like 500%. It's not like 100%, 200%. It's 500%, 5 times the adoption of compared to other framework. So similarly, on 2020, on the Stack Overflow, they also mentioned that Flutter or Dart is actually the language, like JavaScript is language. So Node.js is a framework. So Flutter is equivalent of like Node.js. So they are a framework too. So you can see the adoption is there. And this year, 2022. So Stack Overflow also mentioned that why Flutter become the most popular cross platform as of now. So there is actually a trend to tell you that there's a lot of developer use Flutter. So why they are so good? Because of you can deploy to every platform that the customer use. So majority is actually iOS, Android, and Flutter. iOS, Android, and web. These are the three major platforms. So, but sometimes your company may need to use other platform which your user using it. So that's where like maybe one of your apps is actually need to use it on Android TV. It's possible too because it's Android. Okay, so how about Google? How about Google? Google actually use Flutter for their own products. For example, Google Home. So they actually use Flutter too. Then Google Apps is actually one of their first Google products that actually use Flutter internally. Then if you actually know about Studio, cloud gaming, so their app is also based on Flutter. So you can see that new technology or new products that are actually developed by Google, they also use Flutter. So whether Flutter will be supported in the future, yes, because they're using it. So if they don't use it, if they don't support, then their product will also have an issue. All right. So who are the companies that use it? So there are a lot of companies using it. So not just small startup, not just some other companies, but big giants like Tencent, Alibaba, New York Times, and so on and so forth. Toyota, BMW also use. So I think their BMW, their app is actually also Flutter too. So I'm not sure whether their electric car, the kind of a console, whether it's on Flutter, maybe. So that is actually because if they are actually building it using Linux, then it's possible. Yeah. So that's actually the trend for company using Flutter. All right. So I will touch on the new technology that Flutter 3.0 actually provide. So this actually alongside with the Android 13, where they will support Material 3.0. So this is actually one of the newest design that make it more gorgeous. And this is supported in Flutter too. So you just need to do some setting. You can actually use the UI. So there's some sample app that Flutter actually provide that you can try it on that. So that is one key feature that Flutter 2.0 provide. The next one is a very interesting one. So in the past, before these updates, I was when someone say, "Is it can use Flutter for games, 2D games, build 2D games?" I would say it's better use other platform like Unity, 3D, or using native iOS, Android. But with Flutter 3.0, they actually provide a toolkit. It's called the Flutter Casual Games Toolkit, which you can actually build games using Flutter, and they is very good. You can try it out right now. You just scan this QR code or type this pinball flutter.dev. You try it on laptop, you will see the web view. You will see it on your iOS, on your Safari. You will actually try it. So it works for all three platforms, whether it's a Android, your Android phone, your Samsung phone, your iPhone, or your laptop. It will still works. So you can try it and play around. So it's kind of interesting. And if you are bored doing when there's no other game you want to play, you can try this game. Like, it's a kind of fun game. So they actually announced it during the Google I/O. So it's a very interesting. So this is entirely 100% in Flutter. So they actually use this toolkit as the base to the illustrate how Flutter can be used for games, 2D games. All right. So like in the past, the very famous Flappy Bird. Yeah. So it's basically done using this toolkit. So there's a lot of noise. It's kind of interactive, so it's kind of fun to play around. So this is actually quite a fun game to play. You can see that it doesn't tell that this game is built on Flutter. It's very hard to tell, other than their very obvious mascot. And this built on using Flutter and Firebase. All right. Okay. So in terms of the cross-platform readiness, so for that, in the past, before Flutter 2.0, there's only some of it are still in beta and so on. But as of 3.0, every single major platform they support. So whether it's iOS, Android. So in the past, the early is iOS, Android, then web. There's a sequence that they actually support. Then they support for Windows. They support for then they support for Mac OS and also Linux. And lastly, because Chrome OS is based on Linux, so they also support for Chrome OS. So we can build apps on for Chrome OS laptops too. And lastly is embedded for the Raspberry Pi. In terms of how about smartwatch, uh, I'll put that experiment because they are not officially support in Flutter, but if you actually code it natively on iOS using Swift and Kotlin, and you map it over to Flutter, so it's still doable. But there's community actually, some of them do experiment and they actually do some work around. It works, but they are not actually fully support yet. Not there's for official support and say that they already officially support and make it stable. But all this, the rest are actually quite stable already, and they declare a stable release. So this is actually so they took about 3+ years to reach this stage, and you can see that this is actually say you want to deploy to a different kind of platform using one code base on your one single code base to other platforms that you want to support, and it's possible right now. So that is actually a wonderful thing because you don't need to code so many code base for different platform. That means if you actually need to support every single kind of platform, how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 code base. So you have to build 10 code base for same one app, same user interface, same app. So let's say, for example, Google Pay app, you have to build 10 times, kind of equivalent. So with Flutter, just need to code once. Of course, there's some edge case there you have to support, which is possible, which I will show you later, how to get past this edge case. All right. So the beautiful part is come to here. So after you're done coding, you finish everything, then it's like, let's test it. So we want to build it. So the only code you need to type is actually Flutter build XX release mode. So the moment you do that, you can go drink coffee, go eat breakfast, then you wait 10 minutes, then you will release a new build. It's ready for deployment. Then if you're using a CI/CD deployment, then you just need to type a command, or when you push it to a release bunch, or then you just drink a coffee and you will release to the platform. You will release to the either the Google Play Store or App Store or your web hosting immediately, or on your local host or on your local host. So that's how beauty is. Just you type what platform and deploy, and that's it. So that's actually a very beautiful thing. So this actually type this, I drink coffee. I go drink coffee for some time, then I come back. Oh, it's ready. Okay, good. So then that is actually my workflow every day. So it's kind of amazing. So I don't see that in other platform where you can do that. And because other platform, I need to monitor whether it works or not. If it doesn't work, okay, I need to do again. Check the bug, see any error, kind of thing. This one, I'm confident that you'll work. Other than maybe there's some upgrades that I have to upgrade, then, but most of the time it works most of the time. All right. Okay, so in terms of my experience with Flutter, I think the good thing is about that is you are able to code an app with a cross platform in mind. So one code base with a very small set of some code you need to actually have some edge case where the support, but generally they are still doable because they are, when you code, you will still code in one unified code base, and you don't need to you need to actually can build and use another GitHub. Then you have to actually do a separate thing. So that's actually a good thing. The second thing is integrations. So in the past, when I use it, when they are in Flutter 0 point something, integration is hard. The developers are not, adoption that time is not so great. Then you want to, let's say you want to build like integrate with Google iPhone, maybe Apple Calendar, integrate with your app. You want to access your user iPhone Apple Calendar, then usually you have to code Swift native code first, then you bridge it to Flutter code, then you can access. So now, because other developers actually create packages for actually make it happen. So you just need to import the package and voila, your code works as intended. So similarly for other kind of integration, so they are growing very fast, and most of the things that you want to integrate with Stripe payment, for payment, yep, it's supported. Last time we had to actually bridge the native iOS SDK and the iOS and Android ADA at the package. Now don't need, because now they actually support, the community actually support, and they have a native kind of for the Flutter. Just import it, configure on your Stripe dashboard. That's it. You can actually start with your e-commerce or any payment on your Flutter app. The last thing is Google like to spoil developers. I mean, they have provide all kinds of tools. So you can see a lot of tools that actually can use it as your disposer. And that's where the Flutter gadgets comes in. So one of the example I share is a casual game. So you can actually build games easily. They give you a step. How do you build the games step by step? So it's kind of very good. So one example that I just mentioned about, how about building different platforms? For example, web notification for push. So usually my colleagues or my client actually ask me, oh, can I push notification to user when they're using our web on the iPhone, on the Android phone, kind of a native browser. So there's actually a difference, right? If a Chrome app on iPhone and a Chrome app on Android behave differently. So, and in fact, a Chrome browser on the Mac OS and the other one on the Windows OS also may have a bit of difference. So you can, for example, as of today, if you want to do that for web publication, let's say you want to use the user use Chrome, iOS, iPhone cannot work. Safari also cannot work. Then IE also cannot work. Maybe Firefox will work. But the thing is, how many users use Firefox in the world? Only 3.2%. So how? Then your say, hey, why cannot? So as of today, it cannot support. But iOS 16 have a preview, and they have this new feature, add support for opt-in notification for iOS coming 2023. So it means that when you actually build, you can actually possibly support. Let's say if you need to actually push notification when they use the web app, Flutter web app or native, this one it's not applicable. It's applicable for not just Flutter iOS or Android app. It's applicable for native too. So native doesn't work, Flutter won't work too, because they are based on native. If native Android works, Flutter will works. If native iOS don't work, then Flutter won't work, because at the end of the day, Flutter actually export the end product, which is APK or app bundle, or the iOS IPA bundle. So when they export, they will still export as the native platform. So this is actually applicable for any kind of platform, as long as you actually want to support the iPhone. Okay, so you can see, using just this one use case, there's a lot of things you have to handle. So how do we handle that in Flutter? So very simple. So what you need to do is, for example, you have to support the web, iOS and Android push notification. So there's actually a kind of API that actually use it. So then you say like, oh, if this code is one for web, then just type this keyword called the K is web. So anything that is need to run in web, then you need to run it with that. Then if you need support, if the code only were applicable for Android, then you just need to type it there. So this means that you can actually write the code in a single code base for different platform. So this work for different features lah. So it depends on that. So you can see that this actually works, and you can support other kind of platform where you can actually, like, if Android, is Fuchsia and iOS and Linux, macOS and Windows. Fuchsia, do anyone know who has Fuchsia? Anyone know? Okay, so only one person know. Okay, so Fuchsia is actually a newer Android, the newer OS they are trying to do trying to build. So it's actually kind of experimental, but there's some rumor that there's something changes between that you're going to have future. So you can actually type Google in future, you can see the project. So there's actually a project. So the support, you can actually push this new platform on future. So what is happening? I'm not sure. So but you can see there's new kind of OS that Google trying to develop. So that is actually one of the things in take note. So next time when there's a new OS coming up, you never know. Maybe there's a new kind of a Steam OS for games. Then build games, yes, that's possible. So when there's a lot of support that's needed for this use case, then just Google Flutter team will just need to add in is Steam OS. Then it works. So this is actually the very beautiful kind of Flutter kind of is quite beautiful where you just need to code with cross platform in mind. So when you start coding, you just need to think, you need to think whether it works or not. So you just need to build it. If it doesn't work, then you just put not supported for certain edge cases which is within doesn't work. For example, maybe for Face ID or those hardware where so different platform may have different kind of so maybe different phone for Android have fingerprint sensor. Some don't have fingerprint sensor. So the Flutter package actually automatically detect that what if your hardware or the user hardware or the Android phone doesn't have that sensor, then they will automatically just ignore it. They will hide the feature and they will not be activated. So that's actually a good thing about the Flutter. All right. So how about building it for push notification? How about backend? That one is about front end. How about backend? So that's where Firebase, you just use Firebase and just add this package in the Flutter, and that's it. You have a full stack push notification where you can put push notification from front end to back end using Firebase, and that's where Sparky come in. Sparky is a mascot for Firebase, so that's where the BFF come in. So I call them BFF, best friend forever. So that is actually the best friend. So in the past, Firebase and Flutter they are not best friend forever. They are not actually in the documentation. They are not officially there, but they are using another website that support that. But as of today's this year Google I/O, they actually make it a BFF. That means official support. So you will see on Firebase documentation, they are supported officially with Flutter. So that is actually a good thing. So this is the BFF forever for these two platforms. All right, and they are complement each other, front and back end. So that's actually very good. So you don't need a lot of developers. You just need one front end, one back end, and with this framework, you can build a startup. Right? You don't need a lot of developers. Doesn't mean that developer out of job. No, just learn this framework, then you become like the Superman. So I always like to use Marble as a kind of a Thanos as kind of thing. So different platform, you need to as a developer, you need to actually deploy it. So different Infinity Stone, put it together. You powered by Firebase, you can push to deploy to any platform. And now it's possible because they are stable with this. And it's with this, you can sit on a snap, drink coffee, and you deploy to all platforms. So that's how beauty this Firebase with Flutter comes in. All right. So when you reply to your colleagues, your friends, or someone will ask you this question, what you say? Yes, we can. We don't need to say but really. Yes, we can deploy. No problem. Because we use Flutter, we use Firebase. Yes, true. Done. So the question, so they need to but it doesn't support. No, you say yes, we can support because Flutter Firebase support. So that's actually a good thing. All right. So thank you for listen to my talk. So as of now, I'm also hiring. So if you're actually interested to learn Flutter together, talk to me or you can email me if you are shy to talk to me. So you can email me and so on. All right. And you can link me, you can connect me on the LinkedIn or just type my name on LinkedIn. You can connect me too. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. You have any questions? Or if not, you can actually talk to me later during a break. Yes, sir.
How is the concurrency maintained in all platforms?
Sorry?
The concurrency for the thread management.
Okay.
And the concurrency for code, how is it maintained for all platforms? I mean, how does it work in all platforms?
Okay,
In
so
JavaScript,
for concurrency, I mean, they actually use similar from the kind of JavaScript await kind of the, and they have actually a thread, kind of, if you let's say you are processing, kind of AI where you have to input a lot of video streaming from the camera, then you have to process it on the client side. There's actually a thread called the isolate. You just need to type Google dot isolate. They allow you to actually kind of process the very heavy work process it to background, then your UI will still work. So on the foreground, they will still work and you can show loading screen while you're processing on the background. It can actually issue a kind of say that this part of code don't trigger on the front because when you trigger on the front, you will see stuck hang because it's still processing. Because when you're heavy AI or machine learning kind of model you're trying to actually process, then you actually need to. So that is actually concurrency lah. So in terms of the front end concurrency, they are using an await mechanism, which is the same as the kind of Node.js or the JavaScript, where you can actually you will need to wait for this sender. Let me call API to somewhere and wait for that to reply. You just to type, need to convert that function into a kind of a wait function, and you automatically wait for that function to complete. Then you will continue the next one. So does that answer your question? All right. Okay. Thank you.
my question
Yeah.
also is like in Android we have coroutines, iOS we have async await.
Mm.
So does it internally use this thread management techniques, or Flutter and Dart as its own thread management?
No, they actually when they export to the native iOS Android, the export, for example, Android is APK. If you actually declare as an APK or add bundle, which is a bundle of APK lah. So when they'll convert the kind of into a native language, which is either Kotlin or Java. I think they convert to Kotlin. So then they will still run as the native one. So Flutter, the key thing is when they export, they have kind of a Dart VM now, which is a virtual machine where they run. And they export, they will still make use of all the strengths of the native app. And that's why the performance doesn't cause any issue, because they are using, when at the end of the day, the export is the native one. So when you deploy it to the App Store, in the past, when you actually want to build kind of a PWA, then Apple App Store will say, hey, you cannot do code push on the fly. I need to go through all the review, all the code, then to push. Because Flutter actually deploy a native iOS, Android, or web. Web doesn't matter because it's your own control. But iOS, Android, when you push it, they will see it as a normal Android native. They will see a kind of a native iOS. So from the Apple point of view, from the Google Play Store point of view, they will see that. Of course, they may see that, oh, this is a Flutter app, because there's some code that is running that is actually has some yes, you can see that they actually run kind of a .bn, yeah, to run the Flutter code. But the performance is actually near the native. So that's actually why they can be as high. It's very hard to tell. If you actually use Google Pay, right now, if you use Google Pay, it's actually Flutter too. So you just Google type Flutter, Google Pay, you can see that there's a documentation that they say that they actually use Flutter. Yeah. So that is actually, you have to tell one. Yeah. All right. Hope that's answered your question. Okay. Any questions? Yeah. Okay.
How secure is Flutter from potential attacks and data breach?
Okay, so this lady actually asked about like how secure is Flutter app when it comes to attacks kind of thing. So that question actually is actually the same way as you secure your normal native iOS Android. So you need to declare for example, Android, the Pro Guard, you need to actually pass off the package that you use to actually make sure that, and also you have to actually put the product key when you actually deploy to the App Store. So all these still the same. Whether what kind of platform you use, you still need to do that. So it depends on the developers whether they do that or not. So it's actually secure. It actually works. So you can see companies like Google themselves, they actually use it for Google Pay. Google Pay is a very sensitive, right, financial data. So like you don't see anything happen in Google Pay lah. So that's how secure it is. So they are actually the same as iOS, Android natively. They are the same. So if you actually secure the same way as what you built for iOS, Android, and you make sure you do that, like you need to encrypt lah, or make sure you mask your when you actually export, you should mask all your code lah, so that you will not able to reverse engineer your code. Right, so it's to make it harder lah. So whether it's hackable or not, that is actually depends on how you code it. And if you put, let's say you hard code all your API key in your iOS, Android, then no matter which platform, you will still have the same issue, because when you reverse it, I can see API. Okay, that's it. API to push to make payment. Yes, I retrieve all the sensitive information. So it depends on developers kind of whether they secure it lah. Okay, hope that answer your question. All right. Okay. One more question. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. It was a great topic, and it's very exciting, right? Flutter support all the cross-platform, and it's exciting topic. Okay, so we know you say it support cross-platform in one single code base. Now we know that Windows app, web app, mobile app, they have different natures. Thin client, fat client, and the mobile app has limited resources, right? So mainly two questions, right? One is multi-threading, and another one is animation. How does it render? Because different technology render differently, right, for the animations, and we need to make sure it runs animation smoothly, right? Because we are talking about Flutter UI, mainly focus on UI. So now my first question is, what is your mindset and principle to manage these kind of when you write the Flutter code, right, for the cross-platform? How do you do that? That's you don't have to go into a code level detail, just mindset and then concept. That's one thing.
Okay.
A second thing is, right, you just share the is platform, is OS, Mac OS, all these, right? So that is kind of a bit messy, and I see the code base will be growing. So how do you make sure that this cross-platform code base is scalable and sustainable? Only two questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. So first question about the mindset kind of the for cross-platform, right? So mindset in terms of the whether the animation will work on iOS, Android. So good thing about Flutter that when they actually map from the Dart API, when they map to the Android or iOS, they actually map to the equivalent. For example, text field on the iOS and text field on the Android, they are actually different. So when they map, they actually based on your deployment, because when they at the end of the day, when they export APK file, when they export IPA file for iOS. So when they export, they actually will convert the code they built, they actually write on Flutter, then they actually convert to a native equivalent of that. For example, text field in Flutter, then when you export, they will actually use the Kubernetes version of that. So then for Android, they'll use the Android version of that. So they actually do it natively. So you can see that they don't, some of them, they recreate the UI and they lay it over there. So you actually can Google it, and they actually have a separate package called Kubernetes. Not Kubernetes, Cappuccino. Cappuccino is actually the UI language for iOS. So if you type that, and you can see there's actually a dedicated package. If let's say for whatever reason you want your client or your company actually want that means iOS app need to have iOS UI. They don't want to have Android UI in iOS app, for example. You can actually code that using the same name, text field widget in the Flutter, and you just need to import the Cupertino iOS version of that, and it will still works. So they will actually render exactly the iOS version of that. So in terms of that mindset, usually you don't need to think of whether if let's say you want to build a single UI, let's say text field look the same, 100% must be the same iOS, Android. Usually most of the time it's like that. They don't want to have a different UI. User confused when they switch phone, or why is this? This are different UI. So usually when that requirement is that you need to build a single unified same exact UI for iOS, Android, regardless of whether they have any different. Flutter able to do that. There's using a material package. Android is the equivalent to material design. So it doesn't import that, and when they actually deploy it, they will actually make it the same exact UI for iOS, Android web. Of course, the only difference is maybe the screen size For example, the other thing you take note is the screen size. Because nowadays Android phone have different kind of variant, fold here, fold there, right? Folding phone, yeah, I don't know, next time we'll have full monitor times kind of phone. Then you have the support, right? Small version of that fold, it become bigger. This one, uh, for example, Android actually have Surface kind of Surface Pro, Surface Dual kind of emulator, which is work on Flutter. You can actually deploy to the emulator and test whether your Flutter work in that fold phone, foldable phone. So that you just need to take care of that in terms of screen size. But of course, if you actually code it the same as iOS, you will see that on web, you will see the same UI, but scratch version. You stretch like a, as long you have an ultra wide monitor, you will see the ultra wide button across your, yeah. So this one you take care of now. You need to support, say that you have to limit the screen resolution. If it go beyond, show another UI. Yeah, so that's the only catch that had to take care of when I actually build cross-platform, because screen size is very different from different platform. Second question about, sorry, I forget about second question. Can you repeat again? Oh yeah, scalability. Thank you for your reminder. Yes, scalability, code-based scalability. Of course, yes. As you go bigger, it's harder to maintain. So as you can see just now, there's a platform is Android. For example, certain package only support iOS and Android, or it doesn't work on web. Then you had to catch kind of like certain code base, but you don't need to actually worry that to put a separate file and so on. The max you can put a separate file in the same code base, or you had the if else statement to catch different comic in the same. Let's say that UI is the same, just that only some parts need to vary depending on the platform. Then you need to catch that. So it's scalable in the sense. Of course, if you think that that one become very big, you can split it into multiple files. Then it's more scalable already. So it's more about code management already lah. So, but it's still maintained at the same code base. When you deploy it, it will still maintain as it is.